Something about this whole situation refuses to die down, and that's exactly why people keep circling back to it, because the more you look into the claim about Sonia Uche having a husband and something mysterious happening during the marriage, the more it starts to feel like a story built layer by fans rather than a clearly documented reality. And it all began when observant followers started noticing small changes in her online presence. The kind of subtle shifts that normally wouldn't mean much, but in the world of celebrity culture they become signals that people interpret in different ways. Her posting pattern changed at a point, her captions became less revealing, and her interactions appeared more controlled. And instead of simply assuming she wanted more privacy, people began asking deeper questions like, what is she hiding? Is she in a relationship she doesn't want public? Did she already get married quietly? And that curiosity quickly turned into speculation, and from speculation came assumptions, and from assumptions came a full-blown narrative that there was a husband somewhere in the picture, and not just a husband but one whose story had taken a dramatic turn during the supposed marriage. And that's where things really escalated, because once the idea of something happened enters the conversation, it immediately creates suspense and emotional engagement. People want to know what exactly happened. When did it happen, and why hasn't it been addressed openly? And instead of waiting for verified answers, many began to create their own versions, some suggesting there was a misunderstanding that led to a quiet separation, others implying there was a deeper issue that couldn't be made public, and a few even pushing extreme narratives that sounded more like scripted movie plots than real-life events. And the irony in all of this is that Sonia Uche herself is known for acting in emotional and relationship-driven films where such dramatic twists are common, so it almost feels like some fans unconsciously blended her on-screen roles with her real-life identity, projecting fictional storylines onto her personal life, and then treating those projections as potential truths. And that blending of fiction and reality is one of the strongest forces behind why this topic keeps trending, because once people emotionally connect to a character, they sometimes struggle to separate that character from the actor, especially when the actor delivers convincing performances that feel authentic. And then there's the added layer of her on-screen chemistry with certain co-stars, which fans love to talk about and analyze. Shipping culture plays a huge role here, because when audiences strongly believe two actors have chemistry, they start hoping that chemistry exists off-screen as well. And when it doesn't match their expectations, they begin to question what is really going on behind the scenes, and in some cases, they create alternative explanations like secret relationships, hidden marriages, or complicated personal situations. And that's exactly how the idea of a hidden husband gained traction in the first place. It wasn't based on a single confirmed event, but rather a build-up of interpretations, observations, and emotional investment from fans who wanted a deeper story. And once that idea started circulating, it was picked up by bloggers and content creators who saw the engagement potential and amplified it further, adding dramatic headlines, bold claims, and attention-grabbing phrases that made the story feel urgent and important even without solid evidence. And that's how it transformed from a quiet speculation into a loud trending topic that people couldn't ignore. And another factor that kept the conversation alive was the lack of a direct response, because Sonia didn't immediately come out to confirm or deny these rumors in a way that satisfied everyone. And in the digital age, silence is rarely neutral. Some people interpret it as strength and a decision not to entertain baseless gossip, while others see it as an indirect confirmation that there might be some truth being hidden. And that difference in interpretation creates a loop where every new post, every appearance, and every statement is analyzed for hidden meanings. Fans start reading between the lines, looking for clues in captions, facial expressions, and even the timing of her posts. And when you combine that level of scrutiny with an already emotional audience, you get a situation where even the smallest detail can be blown out of proportion and turned into evidence, supporting one theory or another. And that's why the question of what happened to her supposed husband during the marriage keeps resurfacing, because people are not just looking for facts, they are looking for a story that makes sense to them emotionally. Something that fits the narrative they have already started to believe, and in many cases the more dramatic the story, the more satisfying it feels, even if it's not grounded in reality. And it's also important to consider the broader context of celebrity privacy. Not every public figure chooses to share every aspect of their personal life. Some deliberately keep certain areas private to protect themselves and their loved ones from exactly this kind of scrutiny. But ironically, that privacy can sometimes have the opposite effect. Instead of reducing attention, it can increase curiosity, because people naturally want to fill in the blanks. And when those blanks are filled by speculation, rather than facts, the result is a narrative that feels complete, but may not actually be true. And that's exactly what we are seeing here, a story that has been built piece by piece without a clear foundation, sustained by attention and repeated discussion rather than confirmed information. And the role of social media algorithms cannot be ignored either, because once a topic starts gaining traction, it is pushed to more people, increasing visibility and encouraging more engagement. And as more people join the conversation, new angles are introduced, new theories are created, and the story continues to evolve, sometimes moving further away from the original point. And before long it becomes difficult to trace where the initial idea even came from, and at that stage the narrative takes on a life of its own, independent of the actual person it is about. And that's when it becomes a trend in the true sense of the word, something people talk about not necessarily because they have verified information, but because it is widely discussed and emotionally engaging. And that's why even now the question remains open-ended. What really happened? Was there ever a husband? Was there a marriage? Or is it all a product of collective imagination shaped by digital culture? And until there is a clear and direct clarification from a reliable source, the topic will likely continue to exist in that grey area between fact and fiction, where every opinion feels valid to the person expressing it, but none can be confirmed with certainty. And that's the core of this entire situation. Not a documented incident involving a husband during a marriage, but a powerful example of how narratives are formed, how they spread, and how they persist in the absence of definitive answers. And the more people engage with it, the stronger it becomes, creating a cycle that keeps the conversation alive even without new developments. And in the end, what you're seeing is less about a specific event and more about the dynamics of attention, curiosity, and storytelling in the digital age, where a single idea can grow into a full narrative simply because enough people find it interesting enough to discuss, share, and believe.